Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the movie I Came By that it came out on Netflix in 2022. But before that, if you are not subscribed to my channel, if you are interested in content like movie reviews, book reviews, and I do a lot of different things on my shirts, then make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you can get more content, and it will really help me out in the future. That being said, let's get into I Came By. So this movie kind of took a slight turn that I wasn't really expecting. So it's pretty much about two graffiti artists who pretty much sneak into people's homes, rich people's homes, and they scribble the saying "I came by" inside of their house. So they break into the homes and then they put graffiti saying "I came by." And this movie kind of tries to get a little political when it comes to, I guess, wokeness or talking about race and things of that nature. Like there's we have our main character, or not really main character, but we have one of our graffiti artists who I guess becomes the focal point, I would say, of this movie. He watches I guess a political YouTuber who kind of talks about him and his friend, Toby and his friend, who are doing the I Came By graffiti, and saying, oh, like, well, asking people on the street, like, what do you think this means? Like, trying to delve deeper into the saying. Obviously, he doesn't know that Toby and his friend are doing it, but they're trying to figure out who these people are, why they're doing it. And so, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, they're trying to go take this a little politically, go down the political route. But they kind of try and sprinkle it in throughout, like, the movie. I think maybe 3, maybe 4 times. But it doesn't really hit for me, to be honest with you. I feel like the movie could have done without it, and it would have been the same movie. I don't really think the political aspect was important to this. They tried to say, oh, there's reasoning for why he's doing it, and maybe it does serve a purpose, like rich people taking advantage of maybe poorer people, but in a gruesome sense. But, like, I don't know. I just feel like we didn't need it, and it would have been the same movie. We didn't really need that message, but to each their own. So Toby pretty much, like I said, him and his friend, they do this thing where they break into rich people's homes and then they do the graffiti. Now, Toby's friend, whose name I forgot, he's black. And they do make this important, I guess, in the movie, because there's a lot of things that his friend does not want to do because he's like, I'm black. Like, I'm not going to face the same consequences as you if I get caught. And so his friend is like a landscaper, and he's landscaping for this rich guy who's a former lawyer, a retired lawyer. And I guess this is their next place to break into, because he takes the Wi-Fi password when he goes into the home, and he sends it to Toby. Now, fast forward, we don't really know by how much, but Toby's friend finds out that his girlfriend is pregnant, and all of a sudden he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And what's interesting is I find that they make Toby to be kind of this very unlikable character, where it's like his reaction to his friend saying, oh, I can't do this anymore because my girlfriend is pregnant, is pretty much like, oh, like, are you kidding me? You're too young to have a child, so you're not going to let her keep it, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, like, pretty insufferable. Characters are not, like, very likable at all. We have Toby's mom, who No, she's not the best mother, but they also make Toby have this extreme, like, terrible attitude towards her. We find out it's because his father died and left a bunch of money behind, and she doesn't want to give it to him as yet because she doesn't think that he is responsible enough to have this money. And so he's extremely upset at her with this. But then it's kind of questions like, did y'all have a good relationship at all? Because it seems like this is not just like because of the money thing, it's also because of something else, but we just never get that. And we also learned that, you know, he never actually even knew his dad. His dad was really old. They kind of left him and his mom. And so it also further kind of baffles me a little bit as to why he's acting this way towards her. Obviously, he's of age. She should give him his money. But, like, also, like, the way he's acting is kind of wild. But anyway. So because Toby's friend does not want to go with him anymore, he ends up still going, and he does it by himself. And his friend is like, you know what, you go ahead, I'm not doing this. So he ends up breaking into this guy's home, and we find out like that this lawyer has I guess a detective friend. I think he's lead detective, or he's like lead cop, I don't know, but you know, he's high up there in law enforcement. And while Toby's breaking into his home, he's out with his friend playing racquetball. I don't know what they're playing, but one of, you know, like handball or something with a racket. And so he gets a notification that someone has broken into his home, and he heads back home. Now Toby, while he's in the home, he hears noises as he's in the basement. I don't know why he was necessarily in the basement in the first place, but he hears the noises, and then he discovers that there is a man in a secret room, and he tries to save this man, but unfortunately the lawyer comes back home, and he pretty much has to take him back down into the basement, but, you know, not before saying to him like, oh, like, just stay here, like, I'll be back, blah blah blah. He tells him that he'll come back for him, and then he escapes the home. And so fast forward, he tries to call the cops to get the cops to come to investigate his home, and the cops do come, but of course lawyer man is like, oh, like, your sheriff wouldn't like to hear that, you know, you're doing this to, you know, like, kind of insinuating like, oh, I'm his friend, he wouldn't like to hear that you're doing this. And it's just like to hear that they're doing their job. But okay. And so we see the cops leave without really finding anything out. And so Toby pretty much feels the need that he has to save this dude. So he breaks back into the home and tries to save him. I believe while he's doing this, we see that lawyer dude is already in the room with his captee, if that's even a word. And so Toby sees this, and he like tries to grab something, I think it's a hammer, off a shelf to go and hit dude over the head. But while he is running into the room to do that, he slips on blood. And then we see lawyer guy, Hector Blake is the lawyer's name. So we see Hector Blake hitting him over the head. And then later on, we see him flushing ashes down the toilet. Now, I must admit, when I saw him flushing these ashes down the toilet, I wasn't entirely sure what it was. And thus, I really, like, I don't know. I thought he was flushing down something to clean up his mess. I don't know where my mind was at, but I didn't think it was Toby's ashes and possibly the other guys. Obviously, by the end of the movie, we learned that that was the case. But I must admit, not realizing that kind of like kept a little air of like mystery / thrill for me personally when I was watching the movie. Now, his mom realizes that he is missing. Obviously, she's worried about him. And so now we have Jamil is his name. Jamil is his black friend. And so we'll refer to him as Jamil from now on. And so Jamil obviously knows what he was doing. And so he kind of subtly tries to help the mom. He goes and he kind of stakes out Hector Blake's house because he knows that he went there. He gets a mail envelope from Hector Blake's mailbox, and then he kind of stores it in Toby's hidden drawer in his room and kind of guides his mother to finding that. And then from there on, she starts to investigate Hector Blake on her own. Now, in comes another character who is the detective, a woman detective who is pretty good. I think I liked her. I thought she was pretty good. Pretty good at investigating, but I feel like the cops in this movie, as in with much other movies, were just not on their toes enough. Now, we didn't necessarily have the, oh, I don't believe you trope, but it was more so it's like, y'all are not doing things that you're supposed to be doing, which I will get to in a second. But back to Toby's mother. So she is constantly staking out Hector Blake, right to the point where I believe like the detective and the cops go to his house at one point, and they're when he's getting arrested, which I'll go back to. He's getting arrested for something, and she's like drives by in her little blue car, and she makes eye contact with this man. So he sees her, knows what she looks like, knows what her car looks like. And from there on out, she continues to use her same car with no disguise and sits outside his house constantly to watch him as if he wouldn't notice her. And it's like she's feet away from his house in this car, and it's just like she's like, ma'am, like, come on. Like, I don't know if that was a choice to make her look like stupid or like this is how desperate she is, but it was just like, okay, like, come on, you know? And now back to the reason why he even got arrested. So the cops, the detective came to his house to investigate. They went down to the basement, and they found the hidden room. And there's a point where the detective is in the hidden room, like by herself, and the other cops are like outside of the room, but he's in the room with her. And so like he closes the door, like slightly. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to try something. But then I'm quickly like, that doesn't even make sense. There's a bunch of cops there. But instead, he like turns back to her and he's like, oh, I thought you were one of the, is that all you got? I thought you were one of the smart ones. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, that is a point in the movie that I truly think that if this was in a theater, people would have like busted out laughing, because that was so unexpected and like kind of a little bit out of place, but I loved it because it made me laugh. That was hilarious. But yeah, so he gets arrested for this, for, I guess, I don't know, I can't remember what exactly it was, like threatening a cop. It wasn't that, but something along those lines. Gets taken in to the office, obviously, because he knows his friend is, you know, head sheriff or whatever. He gets to go back home and continues his nefarious deeds. And so he's at a massage parlor now, where there's a man, I think he's from the Middle East, I'm not sure, but you know, he is his massager, right? And so he starts asking him these questions like, oh, how's your family? Have you spoken to your family? And of course, we know where this is going, because this man is his next victim, and he has no contacts. Thus, I can do whatever to him, and I won't get caught because nobody is looking for him. So he invites him back to his house because he's like, oh, like I can help you like get your papers and stuff like that, you know, have his stay. And while he's at his house, he puts something in his drink while he starts telling him about a boy that his father brought home with him, and pretty much his father abandoned him and his mother for this boy who he brought into his marriage bed. They were in the same house, but like abandoned as in like stopped caring about them, I guess. We get that little backstory as to why he might be doing the things that he's doing. He says, oh, would you want to know what happened to this boy? And he says he almost beat him to the point where he thought he was dead. But we don't get any more than that. And so, you know, at some point I was like, wait, was that guy the same guy that was inside, you know, the hidden room at the beginning of the movie? I quickly realized it couldn't have been, because that boy had to have been older than Hector, especially in the photos that we see in the movie. And so that definitely wasn't him. And we don't ever learn what happened to this boy, which was a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. My first pet peeve was not knowing who the first dude was in the room. But once I kind of realized and put the pieces together that it wasn't him, I was like, okay, he probably was burned in the ashes with Toby in the toilet. So, well, not in the toilet, that got flushed down the toilet. So yeah. Now, he starts telling this guy about, you know, all of these things, and I guess he starts feeling woozy. He's like, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Goes to the bathroom. When he comes out, obviously he cannot really see anything. His vision is blurred. He's stumbling all over the place. Can't find his shoes. He wants to leave. Hector comes out, and pretty much gets him to, like, you know, sit down on the couch, and he's trying to leave. And he's pretty much like, yeah, you're not leaving. So instead, he's like, tell me more about this boy, right? And Hector's back is turned because obviously he thinks he's probably so, you know, impaired that he can't do anything. While all of this is going on, Toby's mother is sitting outside of the house watching, because she saw when he brought this guy home with him. And so she's sitting outside of his house watching. And this is the point where this young man decides to hop out the window, and he does end up getting away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, he got away. And she drives up and she saves him. Now it's like the next day or 2 days later. And I'm like, okay, so what happened? Because, you know, we have her, like, she's talking to Jamil about all of this. And we realize that he doesn't want to go to the cops because he doesn't have his papers. He doesn't want to get, you know, deported. So he doesn't want to go to the cops. And fast forward a little bit, and Hector pulls back up at this massage parlor where this dude works at. My first qualm is, did you go back? Like, why did you go back to work? I would not have gone back to work. Like, I know you got to I would not have gone back to work. Like, he knows where you work. Like, what? And so he's like, what are you doing here? And Hector's like, oh, I can help you get your stay. He's like, come in the car. And he's like, no, at first. And then he eventually gets into the car. And wouldn't you know, we find out later on that he's dead, because why wouldn't he be? Like, how stupid can you be? Imagine somebody kidnapping you and drugging you, and they're like, oh, I could get you your papers. Listen, I understand. Like, I mean, I don't, because I'm not in that position, but like, I get it. Like, you don't want to be deported, but you'd rather be dead? Like, make it make sense. So, anyways, we find out later on that he's dead. And so we still got, you know, Toby's mom now is trying to convince Jamil to, like, help her out. By this time, she's found out that he was working with her son to do the graffiti in the rich people houses, because she got, like, her patient, who is some computer tech guy, to, get into her son's USB, which revealed like photos of Jamil and Toby doing the graffiti inside of rich people's homes. And so she knows now that Jamil was in on it, or, and so she's like, you gotta help me break into the home. I don't know if I could do it without you, which is hilarious because he tells her no because he's like, I'm black. If they catch me, it's over, right? Oh, also, like, he had gotten taken in. I can't remember exactly why, but when he was taking the mail from the mailbox, even though they didn't actually see him doing that, like, he had gotten arrested for, I guess, being in the neighborhood. I don't know. That's never actually clear. And then it's like, the cop is saying to him, like, oh, like, you got arrested, like, for protesting and you spent this many months in jail. I'm like, what? For protesting? But anywho, but yeah, he's like, I am not helping you because I'm black and I'm not getting caught. And she don't care because she's like, my son, my son. So it's hilarious because she's like, I needed help. But then it's like, she ends up staking out the place and getting into the house anyways, which, by the way, is because Hector realized that she was staking out the place, right? And he's like, clearly she wants to break into my house, so I'm gonna let her. So he does this thing where he leaves his house, runs down the block, and he's like, oh, I forgot something, right? Puts the key inside of like the lockbox or something like that. That's like outside of his gate. So she can see like, oh, that's where he keeps his key, even though that's not really what he does, but he knows she's watching. And then he goes back in the house, runs back out, takes whatever back out of the box, closes it up. And now she's like, oh, yeah, this is my chance. And so I don't remember if it was that same time or the next day, but she breaks into his house using the key. Lo and behold, she's, running around his house trying to find her son. And then he pops right back in because that was his plan. Goes and ties her up. And she's like, where is my son? And he's like, he brings out the body of the last dude. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she's like, oh, I have to chop him up because, he won't fit in the incinerator. And he's like, but you'll be easier. And then we kind of see later on that like her body is burning we see her clothes burning. With a picture, her ID on top of it also being burnt. And so I'm still holding out hope. I'm like, oh, well, maybe he's just trying to burn evidence of like her clothes. Like maybe she's not actually dead. So, then we have Jamil who, he realizes that she's gone missing. I haven't really mentioned his girlfriend thus far because she hasn't really been important too much. But, she has been catching on that something is going on. And she's like, tell me the truth. She was the smartest one throughout the whole movie. Like, everybody else was stupid, kind of, right? But, like, she was the smartest one throughout the whole movie. She caught on pretty quick. I liked how they made her put two and two together. And it wasn't just like, oh, I know because I know. But she did put stuff together. And so, yeah. She pretty much figures out that, like, you're lying to me. And then they break up eventually, even though, like, he did eventually tell her what was happening. They broke up, which good on her because he was lying to you the whole time. And of course, by this time they had a baby. Like they did. I like that they told us the timeline throughout the entire movie. So I wasn't like too confused. I think maybe there was only one time where I was a little bit confused, but that's okay. But yeah, so now he's like, oh, what to do? And I guess eventually time passes a little bit. And then she comes by to drop off the son. And she's telling him, oh, he's going to be at her school to read like her dissertation or something like that. Like, I guess like all of her class, like he's going to be able to read his dissertation. And then like, so he's at the school And Jamil goes there, and when he pulls off, Jamil follows him. Now, at this point, Hector has moved house. He has completely moved to a different house. I left out the fact that Jamil actually did go to his old house to find Toby and his mother. And when he went there, everything was pretty much cleared out. So we know that Hector was definitely trying to cover his butt by moving. And so Jamil follows him to his new home. He breaks and sneaks up into the house, which, I mean, I guess his goal, because at first I was like, okay, like, why break into there if you're trying to find Toby and his mom? But obviously, it's like at this point, he was trying to enact revenge. And so he sneaks up on him in his room, and tries to, beat him. At first, he's unsuccessful because this man is very smart. But eventually, he beats him. He's like, "Where are they?" And then I assume that like Jamil like offed him, but he goes to the garage, and where he does not find Toby or his mother because they're dead. But he does find another secret room where he's housing a whole different victim. And I think this is where my confusion was, because this victim looked very similar to the first dude. But to be fair, I think the boy that his father brought in, I believe his name was Ravi. And I believe I think he said he was like Indian, Pakistani. And so I think he kind of looks for those type of people to be his victims because of what he felt, like, because he wants to take revenge on those people, because he feels like, oh, like, you're the person my dad abandoned my mom and I for. And because if we look at it, really the only two people, I mean, there was three victims. The first one, his massage therapist, and then this last guy, which were all seemed to be of similar ethnicity or background. Whereas obviously Toby got caught, which is why he was there, and his mom got caught. So they're the only two that were not those things. So I'm going to assume that, oh, and I think maybe that's why the last victim, I think those victims might look similarly to what Ravi did, the little boy. Well, the boy from when he was a child. Hector was a child. So yeah, he finds them. He makes, I believe he either makes the call or he makes the victim make a call to the police, or he did it before, because the cops come. Jamil runs away because he doesn't want to have nothing to do with it. He doesn't want to be caught because, again, he's a black man. And obviously we go back to the house, and we realize that he didn't actually off Hector. He just beat him to pulp and tied him up. And it was funny. We have the detective. She comes in with the other cops, and she's laughing, and she's like, "Yep, you're caught." And that's pretty much, where the movie ends. And I will have to say, at the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know where this movie is going. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay and watch this, because once again, the way they started this movie, it almost made the characters a little bit insufferable and like very unlikable. And however, I do feel like the movie went on, like, as the movie went on, I got more and more into it. I appreciated, even though like a lot of the characters, some of them were a little silly or stupid in the things that they were doing, I feel like it really fit, and I think it did show the desperation. I like that, like, they made Hector smart, and not like easily trapped or catchable which I feel like is a little realistic. And it's also realistic that it's like, okay, unfortunately, like none of these victims are alive. It's sad, but I feel like it was realistic, so I like that. I thought the acting in this was really good. I just didn't like that they made some of the characters like ick, but that's not the actors' fault. I thought the actors did great in their roles. And so I'm going to give this movie like an 8 out of 10. I was pleasantly surprised by it, to be honest with you. Would I watch it again? I think I'd actually watch it again in a few months or so. Because I did actually enjoy this movie. For me, it is rewatchable. So yeah, have you seen I Came By? What did you think of this movie? Make sure you comment down below and share your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, I have an Etsy page where I sell beaded bracelets on there. I'll put the link down below. Also, here is a brief view of my Etsy page if you want to check that out. And without further ado, I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.